Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Community. Okay, this one's actually going to be such a fun one, and I have my colleague Ben here, and Ben is actually going to interview me, which is so fun. And all he asked, and I'm not going to do it, but all he asked was that I didn't refer to him as the co-host of the Community podcast. So I'm not going to refer to him this way, but I'm excited to have you back, Ben. So welcome back.
Yeah, excited to be here. I just feel like, co-host comes with commitment, and there's certain things I'm willing to commit to, and that's maybe not one of them. I don't really know if we need that right now, but...
Yeah, maybe not. We were just talking about this, too, because even when Maria sometimes does ads and stuff, like, I have, like, a jump scare on it, so I think, like, if you took over, I'd have a jump scare. But who knows? Who knows what the future holds?
I think you might be the least of the people that jump scare, but anyways, I feel like we're good where we are right now, as just kind of occasional guest.
Yes.
On the back end.
Star.
Wow.
Because at this point, you're, like, at least in our top 5.
Yeah.
The best organic episode we've ever had. People wanted to know about LinkedIn, or they wanted to know about Ben. We are not sure.
But this episode's about you. I was thinking, like, man, I feel like sometimes we get on here and we notice that people have, like, really enjoyed kind of, like, authentic conversations, just talk about it. And I was just like, has anyone ever interviewed Kristina? And we have like some clients who I think are like kind of obsessed with like Diary of a CEO right now.
Yeah.
So like I'm like, I don't know what the title of this episode's gonna be, but I was kind of thinking it's like, what would it be like if we had a diary of our CEO, this CEO, which is Kristina Bartolds-Sargota.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. People have interviewed me before for podcasts,
but here.
Not here. I've never been interviewed. Actually, that's something I think about often. I'm like, maybe we should use some of those past interviews from other people, like on my podcast. But it's always such a different thing. And so, yeah, I'm excited. I didn't even look at your questions, so I'm like ready to party.
Yeah. These questions I think like might not even, I don't know if they're in like the most like strategic order, but we're just going to kind of like jump into it and see where it takes us. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if you wanted to start off by like kind of like sharing like some of your like the back end of like, I think you talked about this a little bit before, but like kind of like you're like 4 years into like kind of like like exiting like kind of like a corporate job and like building a business. Like I feel like every year is like a new chapter, but like at this current moment, 4 years into entrepreneurship, really, a little bit longer, but 4 years like kind of like full time, where are we? How are we feeling?
Where are we at?
Where are we at?
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, honestly, I think it's like, in some ways it gets like harder and harder every year and easier and easier. Like, I always like that phrase that like new levels, new devils kind of thing, where it's like you're always like have a new thing kind of going on. And I think like I remember looking back on entrepreneurs and I'm like, oh, like when you get to that point, I think it's figured out. Like, I think you just feel good about it. And the more that I work with like high level entrepreneurs, like especially on the podcasting side, I'm like, oh no, no one ever figures it out. Like, it's just like you're always on this roller coaster. So this year has been like a lot of growth. Like on the team, we've seen a lot of delegation. It's been like a really exciting time for me personally. So it's been like kind of prepping and thinking about my life a bit differently. But it was like last year we literally like we were a smidge away from cracking 7 figures. I almost donated to the business to make it happen. Like I was like this close. But like all of these things, like we've had so many lessons, and all of these lessons are kind of like what get us here. And I feel like now I'm kind of at the point where good things are happening, things are rolling, and I'm able to look back on some of these things that have happened over the last few years and be like, oh, I needed that to happen. Yeah. And I feel less like in it than like, and I don't know, Maria might feel still in it, but like I'm feeling like a little bit more on the other side.
Yeah, I was gonna ask for that though, because I feel like you make like a lot of jokes sometimes, even like when our like people ask like, oh, like, so I want to work with Social Snippet, like, so you can do my social kind of thing. And you're like, actually, I don't do that. And I feel like you joke about how you don't really do anything in our business, but like that's not true. Like how have you kind of like but has that been like kind of like what you expected from like this journey of scaling? Do you still feel like there's some areas when you're like too in the business? How is that kind of like, how's your kind of your mindset had to like shift to kind of like get to this stage? I feel like I don't know, you do like, it's not like you're saying, it's like doesn't actually get easier, it just like gets like different, what I mean? And like every year you kind of have a new version of like stuff, but it's like it's not like you're just chilling over here. Well, maybe you are sometimes, but like in general, like, you're still working really hard. It just kind of looks different every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I do always say that, like, I'm just a figurehead, because it's like people do you guys are the ones who do all the hard work. So it's like I don't do any like really client facing work, a little, but not too much. And it's funny because I'll do discovery calls with people and they'll be like, "Will I work with you?" And I'm like, "Certainly not." Like, but you don't want to. Like, you actually want to work with our team because they're better than us. So I think for me, like, it's been actually really cool to see like how at the beginning of any business, is anyone like who's listening to this, like at the beginning of every business, you're judge, jury, executioner. So you are hopefully not the bookkeeper, would not recommend, but like you are your social media manager, you're posting on Pinterest, you're doing all the client work, you're, running your Dubsado, you're learning all these things. And luckily, like I kind of like that. I'm a multi like passionate person. So for me, it's like, I love doing a lot of different things. But actually it's only really been in the last year that I've been able to be like more of a visionary kind of role, which is like really where like I love to work. So it's like easy for me to just like do, right? And like you've seen this, Ben, like Ben is unfortunately like my number one, I'm trying to think of the right word, victim may be it, but it's like I came even yesterday for our Monday morning meeting and I was like, all weekend I had all these ideas and I'm going to spit them out one by one because I might never have an idea again. And so I just wanted to share them with you, and everybody like braced themselves. So I'm now like in this visionary period, which is like so fun, but I don't think I would be as strong in that place if I didn't have all those like learning blocks of like, being the one to do so many of these things. And it's only really right now in our business where I feel like there's things I can't do. Like before it would be like a social media manager would get sick. And it would be like, I'd be like, oh, I'll do it. I'll jump in. Now it doesn't really make the most sense for it to be me to do those kinds of things. Yeah. And over time, like now it's even like I'm seeing it with where our first employee's moving on, and I'm so excited for her. But there's things that she does that I've never done before. And that's such an interesting thing working in a business. And you think about like the CEO of Walmart, like he's probably never stocked a shelf, right? Like that's not likely, right? Maybe, but like wouldn't be able to do everybody's job in the business. And that's, I think, the sign of a growing business is like you get to a point where you're like, oh, actually my people are better than me. And what's actually in my best interest right now is just to keep my people happy and pour into them. So yeah, it's been like definitely like an evolution. And what I spend most of my time doing, honestly, is like kind of like dreaming for the business and like kind of more high level stuff. But I still do like to work. So that's been this hard like balance of like, sometimes like even we talk about this with threads where you're like, I could just do your threads. Like Ben does like a lot of my social, which is such a blessing. And I'm like, no, it's okay. Like I can do it because I like actually like doing it. Like I like marketing. Right. So, it's been an evolution for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like there's a kind of almost like a hidden bonus of like sustainable scaling there by like you having all those touch points. But now too, I think like I'm kind of pulling from that. I'm like, I don't know that like, I think there are some people listening to this that are probably like made to kind of like be in your position at least someday, and there's other people that are just kind of like aren't, because like I think about you and like how like some people are like so motivated by like the everyday tasks. Like we talk about the people in our team, and like some of us are kind of more like checklist people, and some of us aren't. And I think that even you getting to your point, being like, oh, like I'm in this role where like I actually day to day don't have as many responsibilities. Like some days like you would have like zero. Some days you have a lot. You still do a lot of our like sales and discovery calls. So like that takes up a lot of your time. But like it's actually like kind of like important to like the growth of our business that like you have like this drive to like find new ideas, right? And if you're not really motivated by the big picture, I feel like you would kind of like quickly be kind of like kind of drowning in like the idea that you don't really have those like day-to-day tasks anymore. Like that's kind of it's kind of a big change, especially going from even like like old corporate days where someone was kind of like telling you like, oh, like these are the deliverables, right? Like
I've been lucky in my career that like most of the jobs I've ever had have never been deliverable focused. Yeah. And I've always had people I've managed. Right. So it's always been like, this is why I think even like in a good episode for people to listen to is like, I did an episode, Allie Hicks, right, about sustainable scaling. Yeah. And Allie has an amazing business, but like, she's like very happy with one employee and has no aspirations at this point to grow her business past that. And there is this level of people look at that and they might not see the success in that. And I'll be honest, Allie brings home more money than I do. You know what I mean? Because the way that we've done it has been more about like, okay, how do we grow the team? Like, how do we like build something that's sustainable maybe for the next 10 years? That like, Allie loves to design. She loves to build people's websites. I don't actually like personally want to be posting on social, right? So it was like very early on, we made some of those choices. So I've always played to that strength of like, I'm actually inherently like I can be a doer. I think similarly to you, like I love like I do love a checklist. I love getting things done, but I think what's actually really important as you scale up a business is like having someone who can be a visionary and who can like see the big picture, because I think it's easy, especially in a niche like ours, for things to change really fast. And people, get stuck in the status quo and then they don't want to like do anything else. And people even today, we were just talking about this, like our clients have bigger YouTube expectations than we were kind of expecting.
Yeah.
And now that's like kind of a change in our business. And when we started podcasting, like people didn't actually care about the video. And now that's maybe all that they care about, right? So these things, but like we need to adapt with it. And I think when you don't have somebody kind of like in leadership, or even between me and Maria, who is like, oh, I'm like, let's move forward and this is what this looks like, or I have some visions or some dreams, it can be challenging to, I think, scale.
Yeah. Yeah, and you and Maria have chose like, obviously a pretty successful path, but like I think people sometimes would look at it and be like, oh, like it's it's a big team, it's a good amount of like revenue, but you're kind of highlighting there it's like actually not necessarily like the easiest or like the most like clear path for different people, but like so I mean I don't know, do you want to kind of share like what have been some moments where you've kind of questioned this path, or like
all the time today?
Yeah.
No, you know what? Sometimes Maria and I will get into the space where we'll say like, what if we just were social media managers? Like, what if you and me took 10 clients each, made a cool like 200K and just hung out in Cabo? Like, this would be so fun. But it's actually like the bigger picture of like what we're building isn't like for today. And it's like one, like for impact, like that's something that's been important to us as we build the Social Snippet, as we're building High Vibe Women, has been like, we want to like leave big impact. But like we both like love having like team, and I think that's been like such a gift of ours, like working with people like you and working with people who we like love to work with and love to like serve and love to see them grow. So that's been really important, but all the time. And I think especially when things get hard, it's really easy to be down on yourself for mistakes you've made. And I would say like we've made hundreds of thousands of dollars of financial mistakes, like whether that be bad hires, whether that's been us trusting an expert that wasn't an expert, whether that's been investing in something that was maybe we were either too early for, like different things like that. And that's like hard to swallow sometimes, like when you're looking at it and you're like, oh, like that would have been really like nice in my like retirement savings, or like maybe like my family or whatever. But I actually had lunch with an entrepreneur friend yesterday, and she was telling me she has her family's been in business a long time, and I asked her, she was talking about maybe something that wasn't as successful as she thought it was. And I said to her, how do your parents feel about this thing that you're doing that's not like as successful as you thought it was going to be? Yeah. And she was like, my parents know that success in entrepreneurship is the up and the down.
Yeah.
And like, it's not just like, you can't have the big up. You can't have the $1 million in revenue without burning 100K. Like you can't have those things. And so it was like a really good reminder to me of like, hey, like sometimes like I'm so hard on the downs, and this, like we laugh about this because I'm like on the roller coaster and I'm like burning this shit down, or I'm like buying a yacht, and there's no in between, or a 360 photo booth, whatever I can get my hands on. But it's like, you can't have the good and you can't have or without the bad. And I think that's important.
Yeah, totally. I think like one thing that I've like definitely learned from the two of you too is that like it kind of like it takes like investment, like, and it's like I think like some people view that as just like, oh, so is like business like just like gambling then? And I'm like, well, like like kind of in a way, but I think that like the difference is that like you guys make investments with like such like purpose and vision for like, even if it doesn't work out the way that we want it to, like we stand by like the way that we made the investment. Yeah. It's like, oh, an investment into a community. It's like maybe we won't get like 30 clients from that, which is what we would need to like actually pay off this like really expensive community. But it's like, even if we don't, like we know that like we're gonna be able to like serve people in that community. Yeah. Maybe we'll have some friends out there. Maybe we don't get the clients from there, but eventually we're gonna get the clients. Or like, like you kind of like do it with a bigger picture in mind. So it's like yeah, like you're kind of gambling, but at the same time it's like you're doing it for like good reason. You're staying close to like the purpose and like the mission of the business. And like I think that like the business and like the way that the kind of like the world works in business is like eventually you sort of get rewarded for that. Like if you stay like true to like who you are, who you want to serve, like the impact you want to have, like even when like you don't kind of hit the jackpot, like good things can still happen, kind of thing.
100%. And I think you have to have that like conviction on investments. And like, I know you and I are not like the most woo-woo people. Like there's some more woo-woo people on our team for sure, looking up their horoscopes as we speak. But
it's Maria.
Yeah, it is Maria. Ben and I are always like, perfect. Thank you so much. I entertain it way more than Ben does. But it's also sometimes it's the belief that like that investment, like even sometimes just making that investment's your next level.
Yeah, totally.
And like, so I remember when we signed up for the Elite Mastermind, I went to Maria and I was like, what do you think about this? And Maria was like, it kind of feels like we have to do it. Like, it's like, she's like, I don't know what it's going to look like. We're going to bring on someone new on the team. We're going to get an office space, like all kind of at the same time. But she was like, but like, I have this feeling like you're supposed to do this. And if I look at that number, when I think about clients we've received, I was thinking this the other day. I was like, oh, like, I haven't gotten that value in clients, like just being honest. But that's not all the value, right? Like I think about the relationships, the connections, the people that I can voice note so quickly to solve a problem that gets me 5 years ahead before, we had 2 people have sponsored High Vibe Women from that room. Like, there's lots of my relationship with Chris and Lori really strengthened, like so many good things. And now there's like new collaborations coming from that wouldn't have come without that, right? And so it's like getting to be on Lori's podcast, getting to be on Chris's podcast, like all of those things have worked together. And so I think a big belief on things, biblical or not, but is like all things work together for good. And we're just like such big believers that like if we're going to make an investment, sometimes it's not the right one and we're like that hurt or that stung. But like what can we do to kind of make it happen? And we like really like we see the opportunity in lots of things. And I think the most important thing is that we make opportunity in everything. And like that's something that I think a lot of people don't do. And I think that's maybe been part of why we've seen such maybe fast success in its own way is like, just like if you think about how many 7-figure businesses there are run by women, it's like very few. Like the percentage is like very low. Yeah. Never mind just 7-figure businesses in Canada. So like it's like I think we're the exception in a lot of ways. But one of the things is like the reason I think that we have seen that is because we have always been opportunistic. And when things got bad, that never once have we ever been like, this is done.
Yeah.
And even when it's been really bad and we've been like, oh God, like moments of like kind of like heart shattering. And then you're like, okay, but like, tomorrow's a new day. And we were talking about this a bit at lunch today about Aaron Spivak's podcast with his business partner where they do this thing where they text each other and they go, no sales. And even if there were sales and the other person's responsibility is like, oh, my business partner's down bad and I need to like pick them up. And so I'm going to tell them like why there are sales and like why there's a win. And that is something like Maria and I in our own way have always done has been like, yeah, like, this wouldn't be here without this. This is for a lesson. And you'll hear Maria say it all the time. She's like, this happened. And sometimes I'm like I roll, like I can't even like get into the mindset she can because she's so strong. But like, she'll be like, this is happening for us. Like, don't you feel like we're learning like so many good lessons? And I'm like, it's hard to see the lessons right now, you and I are like, yeah, but we're looking for solutions. So yeah, I would say definitely like a lot of like faith in ourselves, which I think is important.
Yeah. You kind of touched on like, even like, Ryan, like the highs and the lows there, kind of like that long-term vision. Like, but how do you balance that like on a day-to-day with like short-term goals for the business, or, like short-term revenue goals? Like, it's kind of like, I feel like it's so hard sometimes to constantly move the needle every single day and like try to like push to see growth in your, like for yourself and for your team. But you also try to like balance like the realization that like stuff does take time.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you kind of ride that wave?
It's a simple one, but I would say it's choosing to see wins everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's like, that is something that I think, we laugh about this. You're learning about it, a lot about our team, those of you who are listening, but like, I'll make like a little sale or like a little High Vibe Women vendor will sign up or a $500 thing will happen, or we'll make a Riverside commission, like something so small. And I'm like, money making season. It's a money making season. And I like really like live in that energy that like, oh my gosh, like even yesterday I sent us a message on Slack late at night and I was like, we made our first $39 on the summit. Like, we have $1 million business. Like $39 is like, not even a lunch for us. But it's like at the same time, it's like celebrating all those things and using that energy to propel you forward, because it's really easy, like, especially because we work on a recurring revenue basis, there's times where we lose clients. And, we experience a season, and we do about every year, where there's big turnover. We're seeing huge in the market, like with things are going on and with tariffs and stuff, and people are holding on to their money tighter than they have. And that was scary. But like in that moment, I'm still celebrating, oh my gosh, like we just got a new client. Oh my gosh, like a new podcast launch. Oh, this is still, because if you dwell in the sadness of it, you're never gonna see the good opportunity. And then you miss out on opportunities too, right? Where it's like, you have a conversation with someone and you're low vibe and you're like, oh my gosh, I lost a client, I'm stressed about this, I'm stressed about that. And you're missing out on the opportunity that's kind of right there in front of you.
Yeah, I think that people like sometimes struggle with that tension of kind of like, oh, like but if we don't like put our heads down, we don't like kind of figure this out, then like we could be stuck here forever. But it's like, I think then you kind of like, almost like the grinding leads to the burnout, leads to the extra frustration when you're not, instead of like, I think what you're saying is that like, you're like, realize like what's already working around you and like use that as like fuel to like kind of like get back on track with like the things that are already going well. It's like there are always like the positive things, there are always kind of like open doors around you. It's just like navigating them instead of like trying to like hammer through a door that's like clearly it's closing. It's like maybe just like turn and see what door like is on the up kind of thing. And I think that you do a really good job with that.
Oh, thanks, Ben. I know, I'm always like, even yesterday I sent you a text or a Slack message and I was like, it's Monday, like rocket ship. You're like, oh well. I will say too is that you can't outwork a bad business.
Yeah.
And so like that's something too that like from like I've coached like probably hundreds of people in some capacity, and like that is something that I see often is that like the answer when things are bad is not to work harder. It's, in my opinion, which is like so counter to my personality, counter to your personality, like because I think you and I are both the type of people when we make a mistake or something's bad, it's like fix, like we need to fix it.
Yeah.
I actually find that often what actually fixes it is spaciousness. Yeah. And like the things that have come like most easily to me when I'm feeling the most stressed is like going outside or laying down for a bit or taking my dog for a walk, like little things like that, which sounds so basic, but like sitting there being like, oh my gosh, like I have this problem and I need to like work. I know there's some stories built on that, like, and you listen to Diary of a CEO or podcasts I know you and I are really familiar with, and it's kind of like, well, we worked till 4 a.m. and that was like that was how we fixed it, and it's like that's a huge cost.
Yeah.
Like for your life. Yeah. And when I look back on my life when I'm like, 99, I've lived that long. And I look back on my life, I'm 99, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that I spent my 20s and my 30s, working so hard. Like that was like a really good use of my time. I don't think that that's going to be how I feel. So I think, yes, I'm working so hard, but I'm trying to have as much fun while doing it. And when these stressful things happen, like that positive attitude, that's actually what's opened so many doors for me. And even Chris and Lori always say, like, enthusiasm opens doors for you that you have, like, no business walking through.
Yeah.
Where it's, like, me being like, okay, that sucked, but, like, let's figure out another way around this or whatever. Or that joy that I'm still able to exude actually has, like, really created other opportunities for me that have been more than I could have imagined. So I think if anyone's listening and you're, like, in a season where you're, like, down, not fake positivity. It's also okay to be, like, worried. It's okay to be stressed.
Yeah.
But like, how do you create systems where you can find those like small pockets of joy every day, so that you're able to actually like survive it? Because otherwise, you're gonna have down years. You're gonna have years where you don't make as much money. You're gonna have years where you make too much money. But it's about the long game if you want to be in business. I think for a long time.
Yeah, and in some of the situations, you're like trying to like operate like. I mean, in your case, or someone listening who might be like a CEO or like a founder of their own business, small or big, like you're sometimes operating on like kind of like a worker level, trying to navigate a system, but you're also like needing the perspective of like a founder. And like when you're doing that 4 a.m. stay up and grind it situation, you're probably not actually approaching the situation with like the like visionary leader that you actually probably need to be in that situation. And I think like getting that perspective going on that walk, that actually like it might mean that you solve it like tomorrow, not today, but it probably means that you're solving it with like more vision than if you just grinded it through. Like, is this actually that urgent? Is this actually the best solution, or am I just trying to like kind of get through?
And one of the biggest mistakes I made, and this was something I was trained young, and so I have had to unlearn, and this is why with you, I'm always like, I think of Ben as my little mentee, my little prodigy. I always thought he's going to be the CEO of the Social Snippet, and he says he doesn't want to do that. So, we're really working through it. But, it's this level of like urgency that just does not exist. And that sometimes when you show people that you are willing to respond like that, that becomes the expectation.
Yeah.
And so something like adult grew up like in my 20s, believing that when someone sent me an email that, it was difficult or challenging, the best thing I could do was respond instantly. Like I could, respond instantly to them. Or if I had a difficult conversation, the best thing I could do was resolve it right away. And what I've actually learned over time is that giving sometimes those emails like a little bit of breath makes me better the next day. Like I actually like perform better. I have a better conversation. But even like I can think last week, Maria and I had a disagreement. We rarely disagree. We were like at a total impasse on something, like, and it was a big decision. And we were kind of like, what are we gonna do about this? And we were with Stacy, we were having a good conversation. And at the end, we still had no decision. Like there was no decision, and it didn't look like we were coming up with a decision. And it was my instinct, like my natural instinct, to stay on the phone. Like I was like, let's just keep talking about this issue. But I said, okay, let's sit with it, and then let's reconvene, because nobody's on fire. So it's not like anyone's going to die by this choice. And the next day I actually came up with the solution, because I had a bit of space from it. And I was like, hey, I actually found middle ground between all three of us that we weren't able to see. Do we win this way? Yeah. And it was like a total win, like all around. Right. And so I think that's sometimes the tough thing of entrepreneurship is it's the sense of like fake urgency, because it's your livelihood. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like when you start behaving like that 24/7, people expect that from you always. And I actually saw it with clients where they would like text me. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I don't like that. Like, so it's tough. Like, but I think if I was to give like any piece of advice, is that like sometimes a little sleep helps.
Yeah. There's a sweet spot. I feel like, maybe you're an entrepreneur, you left like a corporate job because it was like too bureaucratic. Right?
Yeah.
There's actually some room in your business probably for some like fake bureaucracy.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
Like if someone like reaches out to you, you're like, oh, let me go check with my assistant. You don't have to have an assistant. Like
Lori actually used to tell people this. I don't know if she still advises on this, but when I was in Fast Foundation, she'd be like, the best thing you can do is have a fake assistant. Yeah. And we laughed because one time we had an altercation with someone via email. And they like made a fake finance manager. We could tell it was fake. Like the whole thing was fake. And we were like, get it. Yeah. Like, that's the boundary you think you need it. Like honestly, fair enough. We're not even mad about it. Yeah. But what I'm hearing here is that Ben Burke is telling you to have a fake assistant.
Not necessarily need a fake assistant, but I'm empowering you that if you need multiple emails to kind of spread out the wealth and create a bit of a fake bottleneck, I'm saying that might actually be a good thing for you. And I think that there's a certain stage in which that's allowable.
Or even like little things. I've never done this because I'm like probably too unwell to do this, but it's like even people who don't have their email on their phone. Yeah. I'm like, I aspire to be like this. Like I've never been like this. You can catch me at 3 a.m. if I wake up to go to the washroom, I will check my email. Yeah. Like it's just like part of my routine. It's not right. But do you know how many times I've been up in the middle of the night and I'm pissed about something because I saw, and you know me, I have a high rise, a low fall, and I'm pissed about something at 3 a.m. wide awake because I looked at an email. Like that's not good for my mental health. That's not good for my sleep, right? Yeah. So I think it's just like creating some of those systems, and I actually think that's why we're seeing such a big push with wellness and with entrepreneurship. Yeah. Like the hot tubs and actually not hot tubs, saunas and cold plunges and ayahuasca is coming from. I think that like we're seeing entrepreneurs like burning out. And we're seeing people go back to corporate at like crazy levels because it's just too stressful.
Yeah, it's the first thing to go, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was going to like pivot a little bit here, but something that a lot of people like may or may not know is that like, I mean, Kristina is like responsible for like almost all the sales in our business. Yeah. And
you've helped with a few.
And you actually don't like come at it with, any like real level of like formal like sales training or anything like that. So I was just kind of like wondering to like somebody who might be like kind of grow their business and they're like, oh, like do I need to like get sales training? Is it something that I can even like learn? Like how has like your approach like evolved over the years, and how have you even seen like yourself like kind of through different seasons of business when like standards were different or needs were different, how your kind of like process has changed, and kind of how you kind of gotten to where you are today with it?
Yeah, such a good question. So it is true. I just like come by it honestly. I'm very lucky. I think it's like the gift of being chatty. Yeah. And Polish. And Polish. We always laugh about this. I'm like a magnet to Eastern European people, and I think my high cheekbones make me look happier than I am. So it's like lots of things are working for me. Yeah. So I would say like I've never had any formal sales training, and that's still the case to today. And it's been 4 years. And we've done like millions in sales, which is it's amazing. But what I would say is, I think what's like really important is that you love what it is that you sell.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of conversations about this too, right? Because like, I think what I'm passionate about when it comes to social media and podcasting is I'm not passionate about people being viral, and I'm not passionate about people using social media for evil. And even there have been times where I've met with someone and I'm like, I did a discovery call with someone once, and she's like, would you do the marketing for my OnlyFans? And I was like, I'm not saying no, but I don't know how to do OnlyFans marketing. So I'm just going to say I'm going to pass on it.
Yeah.
But like, it's like, I don't pretend to do things I can't do. Like I've always been that way. And so, I find the opportunities where they are, but I think what's really interesting with social and podcasting is I really believe in what it is that we do. So it's easy for me to be passionate to talk about it. And I think when you're talking about what you do, I love to buy from people who love what their craft. They love their outcome. They love what it means.
Yeah.
When I think about the best contractors we've ever worked with, they're people who are just so excited about what it is. So I would say that has to be a piece of it. I would say something that has really evolved for me over these last 4 years, or we still don't do OnlyFans marketing in case anyone's wondering, is, so the first thing is, like I have released a lot of scarcity.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that is a learned skill and is very hard when you're in a season of scarcity. This is something that has bit us, like all of us, because of me, in the ass so many times, because I'm in a season of, it's better to have the revenue from this client, even though they might not be a perfect fit, but like, let's see if we can make it work. And at the beginning, we used to laugh because it was like, Maria would say, it's like, Kristina, do anything for money. Like, it was like, people would come, they'd be like, could you build a Shopify website? And I'm like, I probably could build a Shopify website. And Maria's like, don't sell that. Like, we can't sell that to people. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, I'm just so opportunistic. I just see so much potential, which, by the way, is how High Vibe Women started. So I'm not all bad. But, but what has changed for me has been really like that confidence in, not like, this isn't it, which means something better is coming.
Yeah.
And being okay with that, because I think that is one of the hardest things in business when you are in a season where you've lost clients, or it's difficult, or you're challenge, you have a financial goal, you just made a big investment, you want to make it back, like whatever that looks like. It has to be something better is coming. And I'm still learning that lesson all the time, but I can even just think last week I did a discovery call with someone and they were like obsessed with TikTok, and I was like, we don't really TikTok. Like, we can, but not to the level of strategy it looks like you need.
Yeah. And
I could have lied.
Yeah.
She was into it. Like, she was like, oh, I love your personality. I'm obsessed with your work. Like, I think you're so great. And I could have been like, great, like, let's just do it. Yeah. Let's try it. Let's learn it. And I was like, in the call, I was like, I'm not a fit for you, but I do know the perfect person. And I think that takes a level of like maturity in business that early on I definitely didn't have, and I still see a lot of people don't have. So not all opportunities are good opportunities. I think that's the big thing with sales. And it's better to have a smaller amount of customers, but them be so engaged and so happy. And the other thing I would just say is around pricing. Like, I have built a lot of confidence over pricing. Like, that is something that was really challenging for me at the beginning. Like, I made everything so cheap for people because I was like, oh, like, it's better to make $600 even though the package was $1,500, because, $600 is still kind of profitable, I think, like, and then now I'm like just so much more confident in like our offerings. This is what we do. This is the value it provides. And I'm not going to feel bad that this might not be a fit for you. There's somebody else out there that would be a fit for you at that price point. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of how it's developed, but it took a lot, especially as a woman, especially as a people pleaser, took a long time for me to get there.
Yeah. But at a certain point, then for you, social can't get cheaper, I will say.
Yeah. Agreed. We've learned the hard way. And I still make this mistake all the time. Like, even being 4 years in business, like, again, like, our business is great revenue, but I still make the mistake sometimes where I'll meet someone and I'm like, great, like, let's do it. And then I'm like, ugh. And even, we're learning that together as you've taken over the podcasting part of the business, where I'm like, I think we should do this. And you're like, oh God, I hope you didn't promise that to somebody. Like, because we don't do that today. Now I have you and Maria after me, but it's like, it takes time, but I think that maturity is also so important. Because that's how I think what keeps businesses small is when they're doing not profitable projects and they're like working with difficult clients. And you see this on social all the time, all those things that are like, you get rid of one difficult client and you have an exceptional client who pays 3 times the price. Yeah. So, that's what I would say the learnings are.
Yeah, and I think that might hit people different, like depending on what stage they're at. But I will say, like that is so true that I think I've seen that like through like yeah, like the journey of the social snippet is that like there are some things that are actually okay just for now, but there are some things that you don't necessarily want to be committing to because your goals just aren't aligned like with that sale. So I think like yeah, I kind of like from what I'm getting from that is just like yeah, don't kind of like promise things that you don't want to do and that you don't want to be aligned to your vision. There are certain things that are just like that's just a compromise that we can make, and that doesn't actually really affect our systems, or maybe it's actually kind of an aspirational thing, and like that's kind of where we're at now. We're like we're still like making promises that like aren't really within our system sometimes, but like they're more so we're talking ourselves into them based off of that we actually could see ourselves getting to the point where that is a normal offering because it actually is aligned with our vision rather than just like kind of doing something separate. Like we're not going to promise a Shopify website because like we never really want to be doing Shopify websites.
Yeah, totally.
It's like will we like get better at like certain like kind of like podcasting adjacent offerings? Like yeah, maybe because like that actually might be like an opportunity for us going forward. And it might give us another client now, which is great. But it's like we can't like also forget like who we are and our purpose, right? And that's kind of maybe a bit where there's a bit of a line there.
100%. And I think that's where I have seen myself, but I also see a lot of businesses go kind of off the rails because you're so eager to like please somebody. And the other thing I'm gonna say too is that like personality wise, sometimes clients aren't a fit.
Yeah.
And that's actually harder than scope of work because it's like, oh, like I should not work with that client because they're annoying, like or like but immediately is how things start is usually how they continue. Yeah. And we've seen this so many times where I'm like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe I let this person pass the gate. Like, but it's like also we want to work with a very specific type of person, someone who's respectful, someone who's kind, who sees us as a partner. And we have tons of clients that are like that. So leaning more into that, I think makes a bigger impact than us going and trying to find people who might pay us, but it might not be a good fit.
Yeah. Some quick ones.
Rapid fire.
I was like, I should have like prepared like some like good rapid fire questions, but I'm just gonna fire them off just off the top of my head. So this is kind of dangerous.
Oh my god, I'm so scared. I'm actually so fearful. And one of the promises I made Ben make before coming on here is he'd ask me not once about hobbies. So thank God. Okay, great.
What is your go-to coffee order right now?
It's always the same. I always get a vanilla latte.
Yeah.
I'm
never will change.
Sometimes hazelnut, but I really don't mess with the good things.
Yeah, that's fair. We recently had like a controversial kind of run-in with somebody who kind of matches your personality with a dog. You weren't really pleased with how yours went. I was just wondering if you were to confidently say what kind of dog energy you bring to the table, what is it?
So the issue wasn't that I didn't bring this energy. It was she didn't think this dog was a match for me, which is a golden retriever. And I'm a total golden retriever. Yeah. I'm like so happy. I just want to be included. Okay. I just want to hang with the fam.
But you also think that you can have golden retrievers.
I think I would love a golden retriever.
That's where the tension was kind of rubbing there.
Yeah, she said she was like, I don't think a golden retriever would be good for your personality. And then she also said the dog I currently have is bad for my personality. I can't get rid of him now. I'm keeping him for life.
I think that dogs might just also be able to like mold your personality a little bit. And I think that that's where we're at with Patrick. So I think it's gonna be okay.
Patrick's kind of mean to you, so I hope that's not the case.
I feel like you and Josh are just like you're so like you fit the vibe with Patrick now. It's like a comfortable, it's a family. So yeah. I can't really imagine it being broken up. So
no, we're not going anywhere. Patrick would be high demand.
Yeah, high demand for sure.
Yeah.
And what like is there anything that you're like you're watching right now that you're really in on that you kind of want to bring people along for the ride for? I know it's often Beverly Housewives. Now.
Yes. Okay, you know me so well. I love Real Housewives. And honestly, that's kind of like one of my toxic like traits is I'm actually it's not even like a comfortable amount of obsession. It's like I love the Beverly Hills Housewives. Yeah. When I was in California, I was like, is it too much to do like one of those bus tours? Like this kind of feels a little crazy. It was too much. I didn't do it. But love Beverly Hills Housewives. Josh is kind of getting me to watch. Do you watch Severance?
I actually watched the first episode this weekend.
Okay, and
I thought it was good.
Okay, so scary.
Yeah, I think I'll watch it.
Josh and I are watching it right now. We're in season 2, but it's funny because our friend Jeanette was talking about how she like would love to be severed because she would like love to not.
I feel like that's not even true.
I know she's multi-passionate, but she would love to be severed because then she wouldn't have to think about work at night and stuff.
Yeah, but I feel like she gets so much joy from the businesses.
I
Maybe
know.
not. Maybe that's actually not true of her. I feel like for you, it's like that'd be your worst like.
Oh, it'd be so
nightmare.
sad.
It's like you'd be like, what do I do now, kind of thing.
Well, I wouldn't even know what I was doing during the day, so I wouldn't even know what to think about at night. What emails would I read at 3 a.m.?
Yeah. I think if the three of us, if it was just me, you, and Jeanette, I think I would do the best severed.
I think so too, because you have so many. Like, I have no hobbies. Ben is like,
you could have hobbies. You just you fill them with like you're like your hobbies. Like, I'm gonna do this, and it's like, who are five entrepreneurs I can invite?
Oh yeah, that is true.
Like, we're gonna go on a retreat to Arizona. You could just go. It's like, nah, how do we make this a thing? How do we make this a retreat? Like, who's coming? How can we share the impact of this? It's like,
I don't even do it for write-offs. I don't even do it for write-offs.
For the write-offs. Yeah.
So
You heard it here first, Stacey Miller. She does it for the write-offs exclusively.
Yeah,
no, it's good for the business, but it's like those are hobbies to the average Joe, but you're just making them business things.
I guess so. I guess going to the spa might be a hobby, but like, you have a lot of hobbies and like you love like lots of things. And so I just don't love as many things as you, but if you were severed, this is like so off topic, but if you were severed, I don't think you would even notice. And I actually think it could improve your quality of life.
Okay. I should probably, should I not watch the show then? Because then will I get more sad that I'm not severed?
No, I think you're going to be real happy you're not severed as time goes on.
Okay.
Yeah. Keep me in the loop.
I have a good here at Social Snippet.
Yeah.
Maybe this will be good. Okay. Well, thanks, Kristina. I don't know. Maybe we'll do this again. Maybe not. Maybe this will be the last ever. But this was kind of our first kind of like behind the scenes. We do some behind the scenes stuff, but I was like, how do we get to know Kristina a little better?
Oh.
I don't know. Hopefully we got that from something here. But as always, it's a pleasure. You have so much to share. And this is your podcast, so you can close this off.
Well, I'll and when I say I'll do this, it's Ben who actually does this. This is an LOL, but make sure to link Ben's LinkedIn in the show notes so you can go check him out, see what he's up to. I'm mostly reposting my things, but Ben, I love when we get a chance to chat. It's been so fun getting to do this, but also like to this and more.
Totally, yeah.
This would be so fun. Anyway, let us know what resonated, and would you want to be severed from your business? Let us know.
The answer is yes. I'm concerned for you.
Yeah. If it's yes, send me an anonymous message. Have an amazing day.